welcome to the much awaited and anticipated Infinidash live stream. I'm so excited for everyone that came. Thank you for watching this video. In the chat, go ahead and let me know where you're at and what you're looking forward to with Infinidash. And I'm just so excited to be able to talk to you about it today. This is going to be amazing. So for this show, it's a little different than our typical Containers from the Couch. Yeah, the legacy logo. I know, right? Like when it was in beta and I saw the logo, like we had to use it. So I wanted to bring that in. But this show is a little different than our typical Containers from the Couch. We usually show you, like myself, Brent, Adam, a couple people from AWS are talking about some of our services, teaching you a little more hands-on in some ways. And this time we actually really want to talk about just the service itself. And I have a very special guest with me today. Corey Quinn has decided to grace you all and myself with his presence and to really dig into what Infinidash is, how it can meet all of your service needs. So let's go ahead and bring Corey into the stream. Welcome, Corey. Thanks for coming.
No, thanks for having me. It's always nice to come here and show up and more or less talk about services that I halfway understand and I can bluff my way through the rest. The actual real understanding here is actually mostly done by Ethel, the dog behind me. And I want to be clear, just like a lot of AWS services at general availability are usually like aspirational versions of what they hope to be. In the same way, Ethel is sort of the aspirational version of what an actual dog is.
Nice. And I was going to say, like, with Infinidash is very much part of the AWS principles with being customer obsessed, and we work backwards from customers to be able to design this new service. And I'm pretty sure I saw the new service or the new principles being added this week. And was one of them own a dog? Because I think that's a very Amazonian thing to do. And I don't know if it got in there or not, but I saw it was in a draft.
We're sort of nose and nose right now because I did a whole thing a few weeks back that there are 17 ways to run containers on AWS. There are only 16 leadership principles. Containers are still winning by a nose. But again, in the fullness of time, I'm sure there will be more. And Infinidash is a terrific option to get them to parity.
Right. And I mean, Infinidash bringing all of those container native services along with serverless and cloud native and infinite web scale is just going to be amazing for so many use cases.
Yeah, what I love about, in seriousness for a second, what I love about the entire joke is that AWS has this whole spiel where they work backwards. They'll start with a press release and then work backwards how they divide projects. We have to go back further. Forget the press release. Now, let's start with the customer and community enthusiasm and everyone's talking about it. Then you go back and write the press release. Then you go back and go through Amazon's normal process. I think that is the missing piece.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of improvements that are brought into this process and being able to work backwards with that. I'm loving the comments. I'm trying to keep up with some of them. And really, yeah, I mean, Lambda events, of course, like it runs pretty much anything we want in this makeup service, which is the key because it is everything to everyone and nothing to the people that don't want it. So that's really the goal here of being able to talk about this.
Exactly. People are putting what they want to see into this. And that's valuable and that's important because it's sort of like religion. People take out the bits and pieces that they want. Same story with this. And what people are saying about the service is often a microcosm of their entire approach to AWS services, launches, things they like, things they don't like. There's a case study in here somewhere. I'm not sure whose, but it's buried in there.
Yeah, and even just going into some of that like groundswell of commotion and talk about it, I wanted to bring in a couple of like things that even I was kind of amazed about. Where Werner, our CTO at Amazon, it's launching today. Infinidash GA event is today. He's his time watching in between this halftime of the football game, and we want to do this live stream just to be able to get people to understand what it is and what it isn't, and really ride that wave of being able to talk to people about it. And if you didn't know, the redash is also scheduled and planned for, I think they said Q5. So whenever that happens this year, I think that's somewhere in post-pandemic time.
I can't wait to tear the sponsor's prospectus apart on that one. It's going to be amazing. I also would like to point out as well that Monday is Andy Jassy's first day as CEO of Amazon. Has Adam Selipsky taken over the CEO role of AWS yet, or is that a simultaneous thing? I haven't seen either way. If you can't say, that's fine too. But I just, in my own head canon, what I'm seeing here is like day one, he's at his desk. So why is every customer raving about Infinidash? What is that? And the answer is going to have to be an oh, for Christ's sake, because it is absolutely bizarre and surreal in a bunch of ways, which is my biggest regret about it is that I didn't start this nonsense. People are attributing that, and I've tried to pass it back as fast as humanly possible. But Josh over at Twilio was the genius behind this. Sorry, Joe. My God, Joe Nash. I'm trying to condense and drop letters out there. It's a compression algorithm. There may not be a compression algorithm for experience, but there is a compression algorithm for the letters in the middle of Joe Nash's name.
we can compress whatever we want. Yeah, we can compress anything except for time. So
yeah, you can compress anything except getting it back out intact is a separate question.
And I mean, from the comments here, like everyone is on board and wants so many of these things to exist. And I love that, like this was able to carry itself with books, with conferences, with there's actually a very important one here. Where is it? The Infinidash Swag, which is honestly amazing. Any of the proceeds here, I'm going to drop a link to this in the chat, but this actually proceeds are benefit to a youth LGBTQ plus organization. So highly recommend here if you want some Infinidash swag. There's that.
And who would not?
Yeah, I mean, this is just,
now, of course, we have the competing logos. That's the challenge. The one that I'm particularly partial to is they already put up about their stickers on the way. This is going to be fun. The real question, of course, is how long of a life cycle does this have? In 2 weeks, are we going to say Infinidash and no one's going to know what we're talking about? Let's face it. In many cases, and this actually highlights a point I've been making for years, that we have long since passed the point where I can talk convincingly about AWS services that don't exist and not get called out on it by AWS employees. It just never occurred to me to actually try to do it publicly. I thought that was the joke. No, do it. It's better.
Yeah. And I mean, I work here for a little over a year at Amazon, and it's so big and there's so much stuff, but as a customer before an enterprise, like you want to use all those things. And to this point, like, yes, CloudFormation, Terraform, and Pulumi support are all coming next quarter. Always are. So it's fully supported in Infinidash next quarter. So it's on the public roadmap. Of course, it doesn't
support tagging at launch, because why would it?
Yeah, well, we're working on that. It's definitely going to be prioritized. So if you haven't, also people watching the stream, one thing that we don't typically get with some of these launches is these amazing videos and theme songs from any service launch, which is just phenomenal. Sai and Elle and Forrest all did great Infinidash videos that I'll post the links here in just a second. But this was all like just amazing content to be able to see like what people are excited about and then how people learn and how they latch onto things, and then be able to produce their own content to say like, this is how I want to use the service. This is what I think this should be, and explaining it in very entertaining and creative ways.
And again, if people wind up missing the Infinidash launch, that's fine, because they'll be able to do it all over again in 8 years when it launches in GovCloud. One thing that I did that I thought was fascinating that came out of this was I used GPT-3 from OpenAI to generate a whole launch blog post on this. And it decided that Infinidash, it is a sort of a wrapper that interfaces with step functions like dash, step. Oh my God, they're better at those cutesy naming things than some marketers I know. And it took a developer advocate and promoted her to the GM of step functions in the bio. And this thing's incredibly convincing and almost eerie. It was a little incomprehensible, but let's be honest, let they who have not seen an AWS launch announcement that wasn't slightly incomprehensible cast the first stone.
And I mean, to that point, with GitHub Copilots being able to write some of this, Infinidash is actually, a full no-code solution. So it fully, GitHub Copilot fully supports it in a no-code solution, so you don't actually have to write any code. And actually deploys with AWS Copilots into your environments, and you can actually track your finances with Copilot Financing, which is another tool that all share the same name but work great together to be able to figure out how to use the service and what people want.
I'm looking forward to seeing what people build with it.
I mean, at infinite scale too, right? I mean, that's the whole point. There is no limit here, and this is
the only limit is your mind, and also, let's be realistic, your budget. Everyone has a credit limit somewhere.
It's true. I mean, unless you're printing money, I mean, I don't know. Like if we
I'm pretty
make
sure
up our
that's
own,
called Bitcoin.
that's what I was gonna say. That's where I was going. You jumped ahead.
Too easy, too easy. You telegraphed too much.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes we hit the same wavelength, and it is unfortunate. That's when I have to really make sure I go back to being customer obsessed and not Corey obsessed.
Yeah, someone was asking, I think it was Matt Stratton, that he heard that this was written completely from Copilot suggestions. Is there truth to this? Look, machine learning is very clearly bias laundering. When now with things like Copilot and the rest, you have GitHub Copilot, to be clear, disambiguate there. It's very clear that instead of laundering bias, it's laundering our shitty code and providing plausible deniability. It should not, instead of GitHub Copilot, it really should be called Git Blame the Computer.
And I mean, for real licensing concerns around that, right? Like I keep seeing those topics come up of like, having worked at multiple enterprises, what is that license that I just auto-generated from a machine learning model that I don't control and I don't know where it came from? It's amazing.
That's that right on the screen. There's a logo I was talking about. Yeah, I mostly stay out of the open source licensing debates because there are serious concerns there. Don't get me wrong, but it also primarily feels like it's a place where engineers get to cosplay as attorneys, and that doesn't always go super well.
Yeah, I only tangentially been a part of it at multiple companies, and I am not a lawyer. For Oren here, if you look for, actually, this is interesting because the first open source version of it was No Code by Kelsey Hightower. So if you're looking up, anything that's along the same lines as Infinidash, No Code is a great place to start.
The real question, too, is how this is going to go over within AWS in some interesting ways. For example, when reInvent happens and people wind up working references to AWS Infinidash, and they're like, oh, you're not allowed to mention, like usually they have slide review where they're talking about AWS versus Amazon at the front of a service name. They're super interested in that. They're like, oh, you're not allowed to, you can't talk about Infinidash. It's not a real service. The only correct response is, yes, it is. And it really comes down to whether it gets into the slide or not. How convincing are you? That's my operating theory.
It's all about that confidence, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Joe and I have announced that we are going to be giving a reInvent talk about AWS Infinidash. And I feel like Twitter was concerned or misled into thinking that we were kidding. We are not kidding. We will be giving a talk on Infinidash. I don't know how yet, but it's going to happen.
I'm wondering if we can get it on the CNCF roadmap. I mean, that would be pretty cool. So like the landscape, if there's a Infinidash funded startup, we could get logos and some content for it too.
How many things are on the CNCF landscape right now?
More than AWS services. I know that for sure.
It was over 400 the last time I checked. One of the best viral tweets of our industry that went out was just a screenshot of the landscape, and the only caption was Jesus Christ, which, yep, pretty much. It is one of those overwhelmingly complicated things. I guarantee you that we could be convincing enough to get a small square assigned. Now, the real question, because everyone sees what they want to see inside this fake service that's rapidly becoming real, is which part of the landscape does it belong in?
All of them. It's just that vertical scale of, it's actually that, crossing borders, or we can put it in just, a little piece in all of them. But I think just one line through all of them would be great. And also, like, have you actually seen the product marketing, like marketing landscapes? Those are terrifying. Those, like, I think there's 400 in CNCF, but those are thousands.
I've seen some with thousands on them. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And it's just like those, like data management, big data, marketing. I'm just like, okay, like I get where this is going, and how do we backpedal? That's
there's some great ones out there. Like the Deloitte's Agile Landscape thing is very similar as well. It looks like a subway station or a subway system map.
Connect all those dots with the different green lines and whatever way you want to go.
Yeah, and I want to be very clear here. These things do have value for their target audience. It helps disambiguate a whole bunch of things and see how these things play out. But devoid of that context, you look at it and it looks hilariously bad. Because, yeah, it turns out if you dress something up and put it in a context it doesn't belong, and everything looks ridiculous. And from that springs humor. I want to be clear here. I'm not trying to dunk on people's hard work this time.
And people are very good at visual, spatial, and pattern recognition. And it's not good by taking a bunch of obscure names and then saying, oh, that's what that does. And being able to connect those dots of something you're familiar with and then connect it to something else that you're not familiar with. You can automatically have understanding around what that thing is and what it does. And grouping those things into physical locations helps in many ways. And not even just like on a picture, but I mean, you think, like physical in your house. Like I can tell you where I put down my pen because it was in a place where I put my pens, and like that's like in my head ingrained, and I can do those sorts of things. And it's just amazing how the human brain works.
Or doesn't, as the case may be.
Yeah, it is hard sometimes. I mean, you have to balance that line. And so, I mean, this has been great. I do want to show off the live demo we have prepared for showing off Infinidash, how it works and how people can get started with it.
Things always launch in Oregon as well, which is a good thing to know. There are some regions that are a little late to get services, but Oregon and Virginia and Ohio are the same pricing tier. They are generally day one availability. It's always day one. Yeah, it feels like that sometimes. It's the Groundhog Day one, and that's great. But it's useful to know what region you're in. I also just want to point out how much I adore the fact that your system tells you which region you're in. I suddenly feel the burning desire to add that to my shell prompt. I'm stealing that idea, not even slightly kidding.
So actually, this is directly from Starship is a command prompt generator. So I have some aliases to do sort of this stuff for me. So if I have a demo, I have AWS P for AWS profile, will automatically drop me in my demo account. So I have demo there as that's the AWS account I'm on, and that's the region I'm on. So this is all Starship.
I have a lot of very similar things too that I built myself from scratch. So if this is, sorry, I didn't mean to derail this into actually something that has content in it, but we will talk later, and I'm going to explore that mightily.
Yes. So and for anyone, like let's just AWS Infinidash. Sorry, my keyboard's so loud. It's how I'm a programmer. We have just the basic, standard help that we always get from any sort of Infinidash program. So, and like we were saying earlier, full, like it's having CloudFormation, AWS Copilots. It's no code. So I'm actually in a repo that I haven't written any code yet. I can post that config. I have it in my dot files. It's not oh my ZSH. It's let me look up Starship. Starship RS. That's what it is. I'm gonna post this in chat. As soon as my computer catches up, whenever I screen share, everything is slow. And now I gotta get back to where StreamYard went. Here it is. This is the prompt I use. I've done all sorts of different things in the past of custom prompts, and this one's fast. It supports a lot of things that I want out of the box, and I'm building to the demo. I know it's all suspense here for you. So, but people want to ask questions, and then always good for yes, I am always good for a ZSH promo. That is me. Yes.
Same. Oh, I don't use it by ZSH. I use something that is 15 years old, and I've been iterating on it manually for that long. Is it well written? Absolutely not. Do I use half the stuff in there? No, but I'm too deep to quit.
Yeah. So you get in those ingrained why do you pick the tools you pick? Inertia. That's day after day of just doing that thing, and that muscle memory is hard to break. That's for sure.
Oh yes.
So I actually want to make sure that everything switched over here. Just a second. So here's the demo. Whoops, that's not it. It's Infinidash. We only have one command because that's the only command that Infinidash needs, and it's deploy. And so, like I said, I don't have any code here. This isn't in a repo of things that I spent all week writing. It was just launched today. So I'm running this command for the very first time today to show everyone just what Infinidash can do. So. That's it. And that's the demo right there. I mean, it works out of the box, it deploys, and it's actually a globally available service. So that's all there is to it.
Excellent. And remember, if you don't understand anything about Infinidash, that is almost certainly because you are not good enough at the computers yet, and you should feel bad about it. That's right. That is the implicit statement every time someone doesn't get something. I do wish to reiterate once again, the service is not real. It was made up as a joke, and it has taken on a life of its own.
Yes, and we thank you all for joining the live stream, and we hope that you keep finding all these amazing services and community around them, helpful, and don't feel bad if you don't get the next service when it comes out. And
And I thank you all as well for assisting us in bullying AWS into building a service they had no intention of building whatsoever, but they say they're customer obsessed. Well, now is the time to prove it.
I guess that's what we have to do now. So I probably have some PR fact reviews to go look at after this. So thank you all for coming. Have a great weekend and enjoy.